Real quick, before we get into today's episode, I did want to let you know that this episode was recorded live. It was a YouTube live interview with the guest of honor, Geoff Thorne. So there are a couple of things that are going to be unique about this episode. You're going to hear the voice of my man, Danny J. Quick, who was there to promote his Kickstarter for Ace Blade issues 1 through 8. You can go to comicsaredope.com/aceblade to back it as long as you back before Friday, August the 2nd. But toward the end of this episode, there are going to be times where it sounds like Geoff is scatterbrained. He's not. He was actually responding to comments being made in the live chat before I could call them out for you, the listener. So did just want to let you know about that. But I think this is a great conversation. And with that, I'll let you listen to it now. Perfect segue. So I guess I'll go ahead and bring in to the stage our guest of honor for the evening, Mr. Geoff Thorne, writer.
What's wrong with you?
We've got the illustrious writer of X-Force and Blood Syndicate. You might call him the writer emeritus on Green Lantern, right?
Well, they kicked me out, so I'm emeritus.
So, Geoff, I think besides Danny, you are the first person to be a recurring guest on the show.
Oh, yay. So, cool. I'm happy. Wow. I feel honored.
We're honored to have you. So, Geoff, of course, is here, because he wants to be here. But we're here to promote X-Force, issue number 1, which will be out at your local comic shop tomorrow. By the time you guys listen to the audio, it's there. Grab it.
Have your hands somehow. I don't
how do you do that?
I can't reveal sources, right? Can't do that.
I gotta be late to work tomorrow so I can get to the comic book store and get my copy. But you already got yours. I don't think that's fair.
You know, I haven't even got my author copies yet. That's really unfair, man.
You know, Diamond doesn't do the secret shoppers, or I guess they could still do secret shoppers, but most of the big publishers have moved away from Diamond, and so street dates are a little loose these days.
Mm-hmm. A little loosey-goosey.
Mm-hmm. A little loosey-goosey. So I went to some comic shop somewhere in the North Carolina area and, just acquired it,
Look at you.
Because I wanted to be able to have an informed conversation about X-Force issue 1, although I can't inform anyone.
Yeah, don't spoil it for us. We want.
Yeah,
we have to figure a way to talk about it so we don't destroy it for others.
Yeah, we will for sure. So you guys, if you go to, you know what? I didn't update the link.
I just backed Ace Blade, by the way, while you guys were talking about it.
Oh wow, thank you.
Because that's how I roll, man. That's how I roll.
Hey, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
So I'm going to put the link to Ace Blade in the chat. I don't know, James, if you're here, let me know if that even shows through. Sometimes YouTube likes to go crazy with the links.
Yeah, it popped up.
That's cool. Crazy. Geoff Thorne. I'm going to send you out some special stuff too, Mr. Thorne.
Listen, I love to see it. The only reason I haven't also done a Kickstarter is I am lazy as hell. So I love to see what Kick said before is 8 issues ain't nothing to sneer at. They canceled Mosaic at Marvel at 8. And that was with a gigantic corporation behind it.
Man.
So you should pat yourself on the back, smile and wave, whatever it is you do, because that's an achievement.
Absolutely. No, and if you ever want to do a Kickstarter, this guy right here is the man to talk to.
We will be having a discussion at some point soon.
Absolutely.
I didn't want to do it like I've always been admired. I back Kickstarters as I see them and like them. I would have backed this had I known about it prior. I back a bunch of stuff. Well, enough stuff that the Kickstarter is worthy. And I've backed a bunch of things and I'm happy to have got my stuff. And, generally the quality is good and all that stuff. But more importantly, what you said about, Anya?
Yep.
Yeah. There was a whole different vibe back in those days. Like if Kickstarter had existed, who knows what would have happened with a lot of those companies? Who knows what would have happened with Milestone version 1? You know, so you know, forget all that jumping on the bandwagon at the big two or whatever. You set sail in your own boat. Like, that's the way I look at it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm gonna be out there with you in a minute, getting wet.
Now X-Force though. I know BJ's got some questions, but who's your favorite character in the history of X-Force?
Well, here's the interesting thing about it. It did not start out life as an X-Force book. It started out as a Forge book. Like, I really like Forge. So I came up with the story of Forge and his buddies having these weird adventures. And I pitched that to Tom Brevoort. Like the whole Krakoa, whatever was going on at that time. And there was no sign out in the public that it was ever going to end. I was like, I guess that, whatever. So I had an idea for Forge. And Tom was like, this is not bad. Let me put this on the back burner for a minute, because he's an odd little character to be focused on, whatever. But and then Mark Basso showed up, I don't know, a month, 2 months later, and said, I would like for this book to be X-Force. And I was like, all right, like, so it's different than the other X-Force books. It's not trying to build on or not a comment on the X-Force books, whatever they were. It has members of those teams. Sage is my girl. I like Sage since they revealed she was undercover at the Hellfire Club. As soon as they did that spin on Sage, I was like, what? Right? And the thing with characters like that, they generally put them in the backfield. They're like the man or the woman in the chair. And I was like, do you guys know how her powers work? She should be on that front line. Like, so same thing with Forge. Oh, he makes stuff. And I was like, is that what he does though? Like, making stuff isn't really a mutation. What does he do? Like, what is his actual mutation? Right? So I started thinking about it. And so the answer to that is Sage, who's been on X-Force. She was Psylocke. Captain Britain has been on X-Force. But it was always about Forge. So,
Look.
So something that I don't know, people seem to forget about most comic writers, but I'm sure they learned specifically about you with Green Lantern, right? Is that you are a nerd, sir.
Straight up. Well, wait, let's get our terms clear.
Mm-hmm.
Nerds appreciate. Geeks create.
Okay.
So I am both of those things.
Right.
But yeah, I go back, I go deep. I have probably about 30,000 comics. I've been collecting a million years. I'm a legacy. My dad got me into it. I was reading comics made from the 40s, Prince Valiant, Terry and the Pirates, Flash Gordon, all that crap from my dad, The Shadow, all of that stuff, before I even found out about Kirby and all that other stuff. So in a weird way, in my childhood, I went through all the stages of comics to get to the present. Like, I started with the first stuff, moved up through the Golden Age, moved up through all of that to get to the point of the X-Men or whoever. So, yeah, I try to. They built a rich tapestry in Marvel, especially because it was designed to be a tapestry right from the jump. And I think people forget how deep their game goes. Like, there's just so much crap going on in the Marvel 616 universe that people just forget about because there's so much of it, So I figured, let's do a book that we can mess with it.
Right.
So,
and that's definitely a thing, right? Like that was a thing in your Green Lantern run, right? Like, I'm like, oh, I've never read a Green Lantern book before. Oh, it's John Stewart. Awesome. Wait, what is hyper time? What is happening? Who is the source? What's going on, sir?
I mean, look, we can talk about Green Lantern for a million years.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, that was part one of a 3-part thing that was worked out before everybody got fired or quit. Mm-hmm. So all of the editors who were like, You know, it is like, well, we had an agreement. Well, no, you had an agreement with him. Like, he left. So I don't know what that's all about, but we don't have that agreement. But yeah, same kind of thing. The Green Lantern, they talk about it being a cosmic book, but what did they really do for the last 15 years? They fought other lanterns all the time. Right? It was the Red Lanterns, it was the Yellows, it was, oh, here's Sinestro again, you know. And I'm like, but isn't there more to it than that? And there were things that I've never agreed with, like calling it the emotional spectrum. I mean, I put it in the book, like rage is an emotion, fear is an emotion, but will is not an emotion. Will is just will, right? Death and life are not emotions. So, right? Love is an emotion. Hope is not an emotion. You choose to be hopeful. That's not an emotion, right? Same with greed. That's not an emotion, right? So I was like, so what are they actually? And we were going to get into that had the book been allowed to go. And the Guardians, what's the PG rating on this show?
You're good, man. It's 9 o'clock.
The Guardians are dicks. Okay. The Guardians are dicks. They're really powerful. And they've been running around saying, everybody, we can do whatever the hell we want, because what are you going to do about it? Basically. And you're lucky that they're not like built like Darkseid or somebody. You're just lucky. Right. But even though they're not built like Darkseid, how many times have they've wiped out whole galaxies? They've committed genocide. They've done all kinds of crazy and no one holds them accountable for it. And I was like, I've said this at the time. I didn't vote for the Guardians. They're not my rulers. I don't recognize the Green Lantern's authority on my planet. You know, you come over here, you might want to bring a lunch. You know, that's like, you know, and it wasn't that I was hostile to the Green Lanterns. It was that the concept just got too unwieldy and strange from my point of view. Like, what you want is one Green Lantern. It doesn't have to be the one I want, but there should only be one human Green Lantern at a time. And everything you see of what the Green Lantern is should be filtered through that one Green Lantern. Right? But what kept happening over the decades was people kept adding Green Lanterns, human Green Lanterns. And they were all like roughly Hal Jordan's age. They were within 10 years of Hal Jordan. I was like, you're not helping yourself just because this person's Latin, just because this person's of Middle Eastern descent, just because this person's Black. You're not helping yourself because you're diluting the specialness of all of them by having 9,000 of them. Like, all the other lanterns should be aliens except the one human one. That makes him special or her special. And I don't even care which one, right? So that was kind of a rescue mission from my point of view. Let me get John out of this. That was my whole thing. Let me get John out of this nonsense. John does not need to be a Green Lantern to be cool, right? He can stay in the book. He can do all, but let's make him more like Marvel's Captain Marvel, the Marvel version of Captain Marvel, right? And I didn't even need to reach to do it. Going back to what you said, the lore already built that. All I did was, how come nobody has ever picked up these threads? Like, I remember this book, Mosaic. I know the guy who wrote it is a bag of shit, but the other people on the book weren't bags of shit. The illustrator wasn't, the colorist wasn't, the letterer wasn't, the editor wasn't. It's a good story. And if we're going to kick people out for being bags of shit, there's a whole bunch of music and films you don't get to go to anymore. Right? So I was like, well, if nobody's going to ever pick this up, I will pick it up. And so if you can find all the original Mosaic stories somewhere in the world, and you read them straight through and didn't read anything else, and then you jump to my run, or the first part of my run on Green Lantern, what you will see is a continuation of Mosaic. That's it. Right? I didn't make up none of that. So,
what'd you say, Danny?
Do you have them?
Oh, yeah, I have them somewhere in the world. Like,
yeah,
like
They're
somewhere,
and they are weird as hell. That run was weird as hell.
Somewhere
right?
in the world. I did put this in front just because, but somewhere in the world there exists 18 issues of Green Lantern Mosaic. Yeah. And I'm glad I grabbed them. Someone might be able to find a PDF file somewhere. Dang, maybe I shouldn't say PDF file.
Yeah, don't tell people to pirate things. Don't do that.
Oh, I just meant. Just
But
an unfortunate
let me
double
put it
entendre.
like this: the company is never going to republish those books
Right.
because the guy who wrote those stories is a pedophile. He's in prison unless he's out.
He's a PDF file. We have to, you know.
Right.
But the stories are good. So, and it was really the only time anyone put any hard light on John. And I found that offensive that in all of these years, that was at the late 80s, right? Since then, the only other hard light that's ever been put on John Stewart was in the Justice League cartoons. And I was like, sorry about it. John needs a rescue mission. So my job, as I saw it, was to go in there and get him the hell away from that Green Lantern, everything. And if y'all love Hal so much, y'all can have him. I just want to get my boy out over here.
You know, there is hope. There is hope because they're reprinting all the amalgam stories. The unnamed writer has stories in that book, which is being printed.
Right.
They just printed JLI Omnibus 3.
And he wrote some of those.
He wrote some of those stories.
Okay.
So there is now precedent for reprinting some of these stories. Although both of those is a part of a greater ensemble. I don't know how you collect Mosaic
without, right. And contracts are contracts. It doesn't matter that he went to prison for being a pedophile. As soon as those books go back into circulation, he gets money. And I'm sure the company does not want to pay him a dime. Right. So, and you know, corporations got to eat too. Like they don't want any of that smoke, and I get it. But I'm a writer, and whatever happens in the canon is in the canon. Yeah. And at the time, it's an interesting thing about fans. They get really bent out of shape because if I don't like what you like, you think I'm coming for you. But I don't care about you. I'm just telling you what I like. I don't like strawberry ice cream. You can sit next to me, eat all the strawberry ice cream you want. I'm not going to tell you not to eat it.
Right.
Right. Like, eat it. I'll go have it. I hate mushrooms. Don't put any mushrooms on my plate. But my wife loves mushrooms. Is she wrong? No. I just don't like mushrooms. So there's stuff there in that Green Lantern mythology. It could be something truly amazing. It was for a minute, but in its career, mostly it has not been. Green Lantern was a B-level, B-list at best superhero for most of his existence. Geoff Johns turned him into A-lister for about 10 minutes. And then while Geoff was writing it, the numbers started to drop because it doesn't sustain in the way that they did it. They kept adding stuff instead of going, stop. Here's my pitch for Green Lantern. Alan Scott is a Green Lantern in the 40s, and then he's the magical Green Lantern. And then he lives his life and he freaking dies. And then the science fiction Green Lantern shows up, and that's Hal Jordan. And he shows up in the late 50s, early 60s, and he has all of those Silver Age adventures that everybody loved right up until the Bronze Age. And what happens then? Either he goes off to space and turns into Parallax or something. We don't know, but he's gone. And Guy Gardner becomes Green Lantern for a while. And he runs from the 70s into the 80s, right? And then something happens to Guy. And either he dies or he gives it up or he finds out he's a Voldarian and goes off to be Guy Gardner Warrior. And the ring goes to John Stewart. And then John Stewart's the Green Lantern from the late 80s into the 90s. And then John's whole crap happens and he becomes a Guardian, so he can't be the Green Lantern anymore. And then what happens? Hand off to Kyle Rayner for all of the 90s. Right? And then something happens with Kyle. He becomes a White Lantern or he goes cosmic or he just says, you know what? I want to go be an illustrator. I'm done. Whatever it is. And then you hand it off to both Simon and Jessica because that's never happened before. You have Jessica and Simon be Green Lantern for the 2000s into 2010. Right? And then something happens with them and it's Joe Mullane's turn.
It's a journey.
Simple. Right? And in each of those, because how comic books work, each one of those sections has an infinite number of stories you can tell. Because it's comic books, right? It doesn't matter that the 70s only lasted from 1970 to 1979. You can tell a billion stories within that time period, right? But I'm not an editor and I'm not in charge and nobody wants to hear from that. So the best
I really like Far.
Far Sector was dope as hell. I love Far Sector. I mean, frankly, Nora Jemisin's a much better writer than me. I don't know what they were thinking letting her go. They should have given her a whole candy store to make her stay and keep writing. But, you know, I liked it. I took a shot. That stuff's in the canon now too. Oh, that's what I was going to say. When they brought me in on Green Lantern, there was this thing going on called Infinite Frontier, which people conveniently forget about. The editorial mandate of Infinite Frontier was, and I quote, everything that has ever happened in DC Comics ever is live. It all happened. To which every writer went, everything? Because some things go against each other. Everything happened. And we were like, I don't know how to use that. So I'm guaranteeing you every writer was like, that doesn't actually work. Clark can't be both married to Lois and she knows his identity and hiding his identity from Lois and she doesn't know it and he's not married to her. I'm going to have to choose. To which they go, yeah, go choose, do whatever you want. And I was like, what the hell? So I left things in, I took things out. There was no rules. So that's what you got.
Yeah.
I got a question.
Go.
You say, I'm not an editor, but I was talking to a friend of the show, Javon Stokes, who also has an encyclopedic knowledge of comic book stories. You know, for the last 40 years or so that he's been reading comics. Why can't you be? Why could you not be an editor? Is that a structural?
It's a different job. The job of an editor is, I could do it, and technically I do it on my own comics, right? But if I have another writer, I have artists or whatever, I am the editor who decides stuff. But the editor's job is both to manage the book and to serve the needs of the corporation, which are not told to us. They're the filter that those needs come through. The editor might not even necessarily agree with those needs, but it's their job to make them happen. So yes, I wouldn't mind being an editor for a short period on like a small, like, I don't know, if they let me be the milestone editor in chief for 2 years, I'll probably say yes, right? Something like that. But full time, it's a big job. And in the old days, you had people like Jim Shooter and Paul Levitz and people like that. But that was when those companies were less under the control of the bigger corporation that now owns them. So Jim Shooter can go, you know what we're going to do? New universe. I don't care. New Secret Wars. Secret Wars. What is that, Jim? I don't know, but y'all going to do it because I'm the boss. Right? We're going to have some Secret Wars. And you know what's going to happen? That costume is going to be black at the end of it. Okay. Really? Going to change Spider-Man's costume? Are you sure? Doesn't matter. I'm the boss, and that's what's going to happen, right? That guy doesn't exist. That position no longer exists. C.B. Cebulski is the boss of everyone below him, but he's a middleman. He's not the boss, right? He's got bosses, big-time bosses named Kevin Feige over him, right? So technically, Kevin Feige is the EIC because what he says goes, right? And that doesn't mean it's right or wrong. I'm just saying it's a different vibe. So I would think I would be fighting all the time with whoever my boss was if I was in an editorial position, because I'd be like, really? You want to marry Catwoman and Batman? Is that really the move? Is that what we're doing here? Yes, we need it for the movies. Okay, it's your show. Do what we can. We'll make it the best we can do, but the audience is going to hate that. So you don't know. I kind of do, though. So that's the answer. I mean, it's a hell of a job. It's ultimately thankless. Fans hate them no matter what they do, right? I personally hated Dan DiDio until I met him, and then he turned out to be a decent dude, trying hard to make some good comics. He just failed a lot from different people. Depending on what he did, it was either a huge win or a huge failure, and it would be exactly the same thing, right? Depending on who you talk to. Oh, I hate that dude. He messed this thing up. Exactly the same. 5 minutes later, I love that dude. Talking about the same comic. He did these 3 things, And I'm like, isn't that the same guy? Okay, So I get enough of that part of me as a writer. Obviously, I can't imagine what it would be like if you were in charge of a whole line like Tom Brevoort. They just throw rocks at Tom, and I'm like, you don't know what Tom's job is. He can shut up. Like Tom has a lot to do. So, but as a writer, you can stay in your own little. I have fewer things to navigate. Right? Like my pitches are weird. So if they say yes to a pitch, they're like, we won't try this weird thing out. So that's the biggest hurdle. once you get in after that, it's kind of like, okay, well, how do we make it fit better? But that's very small compared to, like, my editor has to deal with a bunch of other books. With the X books, we have to know what the others are doing. Like, we have to know what characters are in play and in what way, who's alive, who's dead, who's dating, who's not. You know, that's the simplest part. You know, if I want to use or kill a character and someone has pitched the story that got bought that includes that character, I'm like, yeah, but I was going to kill Magneto.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but your book's just X-Force. This is X-Men. So we're going to do what X-Men wants.
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, my whole story arc was based on Magneto getting killed at the end. Yeah. I'm sorry, Geoff. Figure some shit out.
I will say I did love the place you left John Stewart when your run was done. I enjoyed where John was, incredibly powered up. Well, you might say not powered up. He already had those powers, definitely expanded. But also, like, if I can choose whatever timeline I want, anything I want to have happen is happening. Cool. I'm going to get my wife.
That's right.
Love that.
And like, also, okay, just between us and the people watching, mission accomplished, by the way. I did save John, because the John that he splits into two, and the one that went back was the hypertime duplicate. The one that came back to the main universe was the hypertime duplicate. Now, technically, it doesn't matter because they're exactly the same guy. If he's not a clone, he's not from another dimension. They're both actually the same John Stewart because of weird timey-wimey goodness. But the John that stuck around was the John we started the book with. The John that went away at the end, that's the John we started with, right? And he went off into the dark sectors, which no one's probably ever going to deal with again. But within the dark sectors, his wife is still alive out there somewhere. Xanshi has been established, and it's there for real. Now, now here's the best part of it, though. Some writer can go, you know what? I hate that Geoff Thorne. That guy sucks. I met him at a club once, and you know what? Fuck that guy. All my work is going to be destroy everything he built in Green Lantern. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to erase all that shit. Everything he did, I'm going to erase it. But you can't, baby, because it's hyper time. Nothing you can do. As soon as some other person read it and liked it and wants to do it again, right back at you. So I technically did it. That's what I tell myself. It's just DC is choosing to ignore pretty much, I wouldn't say all of it. They're definitely using some of the stuff I built in the current runs. And Phil Kennedy Johnson's a hell of a good writer, and he's doing his best to make that character sing. But both of those books are running into the problem that Green Lantern is always going to run into until they work it out, which is he's a B-tier character because his power set is too big, right? The ring lets you do anything you want. That's too big. Its only limitation was yellow. That's stupid. That's some nonsense. But it's just dumb. That's why I introduced a magical weakness, right? Because it makes sense that the magic would be a weakness for something that the people who hate magic think they got rid of magic. So why would you build a weapon that can defend against magic since you feel like you already dealt with that problem, right? So then a whole bunch of high-powered magicians show up and they can give the Green Lanterns a run. That makes sense to me. And it's a good weakness to have because it's like, that means Zatanna is suddenly in play. John Constantine is suddenly in play against the Green Lantern. Right? That's adorable what you do over there. That's great. Watch this. Zoink! Demon comes and grabs. Oh, that was just happening. I'm in hell now. Yeah, that ring ain't gonna do much here. And plus your charge is winding down. Right? And now you have stories to tell. But there are fanboys on both sides of the screen. There are fanboys in the publishing side and there are fanboys in the audience who can't handle the necessary shifts that would, I wouldn't say depower Green Lantern, but make him approachable. Make him a character like he's either going to be on Earth depowered because he's too powerful to, like, any city Green Lantern lives in, there's no crime in that city. Like the day after he moves in, crime is over in that city. Right? Because you've made him so powerful. Literally every time I charge my ring, I can make an entire police force that will follow all the rules of the police. No one will ever get accidentally shot. No one ever get accidentally harmed in any way. They will just run around the city, and I don't even have to pay attention. Right? All I have to do is charge my ring every 24 hours, go about my day with these automaton bots going around doing police work, and they're indestructible, and they can do all of the Green Lantern stuff I let them do. Right? Too powerful to fight crime on Earth. So what do? You take him off the planet. Put him into cosmic adventures all the time. Except you can't really relate to cosmic adventures all the time because I don't know what a freaking Vulcan is like at home, and I don't care. Right? I want to know how Vulcans relate to humans. I want to know as much about them as relates to how humans deal with them because what? I am one. Right? I'm not telling this, right? These are, to me, simple storytelling, what we call it, guardrails, right? Parameters that would ultimately make Green Lantern an easier and more fun ride, right? Does it do everything you want? Does the ring have its own personality? Does it tell you no from time to time? Not just about killing, but like, wait, what? No, we're not doing that. You're my ring. Do what I tell you to do. Why would I do that? I had a thing where the previous ring holder was imprinted on the ring. So you, who've never used a Green Lantern ring before, you get the ring, plus you get the previous holder acting as your advisor. So like decide graduated.
I liked how they did it in the in that last Jon Stewart film, where
the Tomorrowverse one. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting with the ring. So I think there's a lot of stuff that you could explore, man. I wish if I was in the mainstream.
They're never letting me back near that title, dude. They will never let me put my hands on a Green Lantern again. Well, look, I don't love Hal, right? So they know for sure if I take over, it's not going to be about Hal anymore. I'm not going to kill him, but the spotlight's going to literally go zoink over to somebody else, right? So they don't want that. And I don't want to bang my head on that. I did my best. I think we did you guys liked it. About 30,000 people a month liked it. So we know we didn't fail. The company was just like, nah, we're not doing this. Right? So that's fair. They own it. I'm not mad at them. They paid me what I was owed, and I did what I could do. I got to work with some great creatives. Those illustrators are the shit. Like, if I could afford them, I'd be working with them right now. Right? And I'll be able to afford them soon. But yeah, I had a great time on that book. We left it all on the field from my point of view. If people couldn't keep up with it, tough. And if people didn't like it, tough. Don't buy it. It's not like I'm reaching in your pocket and making you buy Green Lantern, right? If you don't like, what do I do? How many books come out every month? Like a month? 100 books a week? Some crazy amount, right? Yeah. Do you buy all those books? No,
not at all.
You buy what? A tiny fraction, 5, maybe 6 a week, maybe, right? Right? You know what I'm saying? So how are you deciding not to buy the other books? I don't want to. Right? That's it. Just don't buy what you don't like for a while.
True.
I don't know why it has to be a fight.
Yeah. Nah, but I brought Green Lantern up really just to bring up the point that if you're writing a story, it's because you like the story and you know the lore, right? And so I'm excited to see you take the same approach with X-Force, right? All these mutants, there's 1 million mutants. There's more than 1 million mutants, right? There's a whole lot of mutants, a whole lot of places they've gone. Right. Yeah. And so lots of things they've done. Plenty of mutants who have not had a spotlight because regardless of how many mutants there are, we're going to talk about the same 7. So I'm excited for this X-Force run to see perhaps underutilized mutants in new ways. And
I would like to do with it what I would like to do. I was very surprised that my biggest thing before we made it X-Force was, what am I going to call this book? Right? It's got to have an X in the title. And they used up all the good X words for all the other X books. I was literally banging my head on the wall, and then Mark comes in and, let's make it X-Force. And I was like, okay, great, thank you. I was killing myself, right? But the pitch really was 2 things. You read it. It's very action-y.
Yes.
Right? A lot goes on, right? And shooting and blowing stuff up, and it's crazy, right? as usual with me, the books that I pitch when it's just in the story form are much more like a Vertigo book, right? So it was more Forge and Sage and whoever else that week or that month sort of getting into stuff, kind of like the X-Files in a way, right? But once it decided it was going to be X-Force, I was like, well, that means we got to blow shit up. Read an X-Force book for people standing around in rooms talking. So, and I wasn't really big on the murder part, but that goes back to what I was saying about Marvel has a very, very deep and rich history. And what you're going to see now, once issue 1 comes out on my Patreon, I can't do annotations on the story points because that's unfair. And I don't want to pretend like, oh, come to my Patreon and you can see all the secret. No, but I am going to note all the stuff I pulled and where I pulled it from the 616 universe, because even that monster is something people have seen before if they've been reading comics long enough. Right? And these are the kind of Easter eggs that make me happy. But if you don't know it, it doesn't hurt the story. Right? But some 70-year-old's going to go, wait a minute, wasn't that from Where Creatures Dwell in 1954? How does he even know about that? You know, look it up, yo. Like, I wasn't there either. But you know what I'm saying? Because there's a rich tapestry. You can see from the covers, we're going to run into the Man Thing at some point. People rarely use the Man Thing, but he's going to show up and do some stuff. The covers and the solicits have already told you the character Nuclo. Anybody been thinking about Nuclo in 5 minutes? Okay, this is a good one. You'll like this. This doesn't spoil anything because they already got the covers out. Nuclo is the son. He's the mutant son of the Wizard, the Golden Age speedster from the All Winners Squad. Back in the day when Captain America and Bucky and Invaders were running around, there was another team called the All Winners Squad, which had the Wizard, the original Vision, who was a mystical hero. A guy called, I think, Red Raven was on it. He was like the angel, but it was all, doesn't matter. And this character called Miss America. And she had kind of electrical strength and maybe flight powers, right? Well, the Wizard and Miss America got together and they had a mutant. They got powers the normal way. They like, something happened and now I got powers. But their kid was a mutant. But their kid was a mutant. So Nuclo showed up and he gave the Avengers fits for a minute. And then somebody else used him in Thunderbolts many years later, and they did some other stuff to him. But nobody's thinking about Nuclo. Nobody's checking for Nuclo. So I was like, all right, well, we don't use Nuclo, right? And there's a whole bunch of other weird stuff like that that's going to pop up in the stories. Many I'm not going to spoil now, but there's going to be some big stuff that pops up. And you're going to be like, wait, where did that? And we're going to put the little things, the little boxes. This is from issue whatever. This is from, Tales to Astonish 104 back in 1960, whatever. Like, go check them out. Because when I was coming up, part of the fun of collecting comics wasn't like I'm going to accumulate a large number of comics. It was that, at least with Marvel Comics, they were writing and using characters that existed in other comic books, right? They had stories going on in other comic books. So if, I don't know, Ant-Man and the Wasp had their own villain, the Whirlwind. He had a fixation on the Wasp, right? And he would show up and cause trouble. But he would show up in the Avengers, who the other Avengers didn't know who the hell he was, right? So they put that little box. Well, this is from Ant-Man and the Wasp, 102 or whatever. And then you run down to the comic book shop if you like the Whirlwind. You go, I don't know this guy. They kicked his ass pretty easily, but he was cool. I like his costume. What else has he been in? And you run down to the comic book shop and you look for that comic. That was the fun of collecting comics back in those days, back when the dinosaurs were here. So I'm trying to inject some of that kind of fun into the X-Force book, right? There's going to be cameos galore, but they're not going to be coming from where you think. I'm going to refer to some of my own work. I'm trying to point you to my own work as well. But
listen, we've already got an Inhuman running around as a mutant. Why not again?
Here's an interesting thing about that. They don't realize what they did. That whole stupid Inhumans versus mutants thing was all because of executives being mad at each other, right? And so all the people down in the street level had to write stories reflecting that. But the Inhumans were always a background for the Fantastic Four, or background for the Avengers, or background for the X-Men, because they crossed all those areas, right? But they themselves were never the thing. Creating those new humans, the new Inhumans, with the gas running around and turning random people into Inhumans, I was like, I never really liked that. Mosaic wasn't really built to be that. They asked me if I minded if we made him an Inhuman, and I was like, I don't care. Sure. Right? But now that they turned Kamala into a mutant, to me, that opens the door on all of those new humans. What the Terrigen gas that turned them into Inhumans did was it just screwed with their X genes, which were dormant. And also explains why that same gas killed mutants who had been already got their powers, right? Because it specifically screwed with the X gene. And since these people most of them got turned into Inhumans in adulthood, it means that they were never going to manifest as mutants because their X gene was recessive. But it didn't mean they didn't have it. It means probably if they married another person with a recessive X gene, that their child would be a mutant.
Right.
Right? Well, this Terrigen mist turned them into Inhumans, but I say no. It just activated their X gene in a really twisted way. All actually mutants, which lets me put Mosaic back in the game.
Nice. Just wanted to point out, Danny did have to drop. You guys should still go back. Ace Blade. You can get all 8 issues. The campaign closes on Friday afternoon. Friday evening, August 2nd. So go to fourthwallpros.com/Kickstarter to back the first 8 issues of Ace Blade, or just the 8th if you're already caught up. And
that looks dope. I'm glad I backed it. That's correct. The Terrigen mist, the Terrigen bomb. Anyway, so you're right. And so X-Force is partly just the fun of what Forge and the team are running around doing, but a lot of what they interact with is like deep cuts on Marvel lore. There was a little bit of, well, let's make this a mutant thing. And I was like, no, it very specifically can't just be mutants. It has to be more broad than that. There's going to be a bad guy team at some point. They're going to show up and you're going to love them. You're definitely going to like them. And apparently the character of Surge, who I've liked since the new X-Men Academy days, she never got much light on her, but I just kind of liked her because she talked a lot of shit, and she got into that little thing with Dust about she was a little bit of a bigot against Muslims. And I was like, well, this is all right, let's go. Right? Like, because you don't really see that kind of thing very much in comics. The idea to have that conversation at all, I was like, okay, got a little milestone in there. I see a little milestone in here. So I wanted to bring her back, and they were cool with it because no one was doing anything with it. So so we're gonna have fun with Nori. Forge is an undersold character, as I've always said. Sage as well. She had a cut, like they did a good job with her in X-Men Extreme, but really everything around that has been kind of weak sauce from my kind of point of view with her. There's been a little bit of kickback on the fact that Captain Britain and Rachel Summers are a couple now. And I'm like, hey, it's tough. I didn't make that up. That's the rules. When I got them, they were a couple, so they're a couple. If that's a deal breaker for you, let that deal be broken, because that's what it is. And Tank is Tank. So my boy, Tank's gonna have some fun stuff to do. So it's just fun, right? Like, I wanted it to be a fun comic. Like I said, it's fast as you read it. It's just run and gun, which I don't think people expect from me, because Green Lantern was a very epic sort of, this is a novel you're reading. This is I want that Scotty Young cover too, and I haven't got my books. I'm very upset.
I didn't even see the Scotty cover.
Dude, it is great. He is killing.
Nice. Now, like you said, this is a more fast-paced book, at the very least from the first issue, if that's any indication.
Oh, it stays like that. It's like that. That's it.
Oh, that Scotty Young cover is cool. So, but it's fast-paced. it very much still like the X-Men or the X-Force, I should say, for a long time, it's just sort of been covert ops. You know, quick mission, kill a few people, and there we go. Right. This is, I can't spoil anything. It's similar in ways, right? Where it's like, here's your mission. Do you accept?
Right.
Right. And I really enjoyed that aspect of it. And it seems like there's sort of a revolving team.
That's in the solicits, and I push back on that a little bit. The way this is going to work is, if Forge needs some money, he'll grab them. It's more like we're just going to be guesting people in the book and try to do it in an interesting way. So it's not just, oh, it's a team up book. That's not what it is. Okay. But because I have the whole canvas of the Marvel 616 universe and beyond, frankly, if I want, there's an opportunity there to do mashups, do mixes, do remixes of things to bring back people that you haven't thought about in 30 years since before I was born, sometimes. So those characters, like I said, Man-Thing shows up, Nucleus shows up, and you get a little bit of the lore of each one of those things when they show up. And there may be people who've never even seen or heard of the Man-Thing. Definitely never heard of Nucleus, right? Not like Nucleus is amazing, but I'm saying, like, it's that kind of a book.
Right.
Right. So it won't just be like, oh, who's going to be in the book this week? It's not like that. And I would hope that people will not be disappointed when it is not that, because it ain't going to be that.
Gotcha.
But it will be is you're definitely going to see you're going to see things and go to places you had not thought to go in an X book. That's kind of the point of it. And you're going to be watching Forge go through some serious changes. Well, you saw in issue 1, he goes through some serious changes. That's not going to stop. So, and even that, it's hard to not spoil it, but even what happens to Forge is connected to Marvel lore, is it not? Like, you know, people forget how that one character we're not talking about became the way that character is now, right? That's part of the inspiration for the book. So, go read it, y'all. It's different. And I saw someone ask, what makes a comic book fast? That's an interesting question. All right. You asked about panels, Chillmonger. Yes. The space between the panels is time, right? So if I want to draw the time out, this is one way to make a comic book fast or slow. If I want to draw the time out, the time that it takes me to do this in comic book realm, if I want it to look like it took a long time, that one action takes 8 panels, right? If I wanted to take no time, you have a picture of me like this, and then you have a picture of me like this, implying very strongly that only less than a second happened between those two images. So that's one way of playing with time in a comic book. But when I say fast in this context, it is we are moving fast. Once the mission starts, it stays up. So they are running basically from the time, not right away, but once they're like, okay, we're going. Once that starter pistol shoots, they are fighting stuff. They are yelling. They are, what is going on here? It is like that, straight through, right? And then obviously they win or there'd be no book. But once they win, it ain't over because they have to go do it again. It'll be a completely different situation because solving this situation solved it. Like you won't be coming back to this. They solved it. So it's fast in that regard. It also means you don't have to carry baggage, right? As much fun as it is to make you guys go, oh, what issue was that from? Where'd they get that from? All of that stuff. If you pay zero attention to that, and I recommend, if you're not that kind of reader, don't pay any attention to all of the references. It doesn't matter, right? But it means you don't have to carry anything except the book in your hand. All you need to know about this book is in issue 1. You don't need to know anything. Am I wrong?
No, you're right.
Right? Everything you need to know about this book, it's the almost exact opposite of Green Lantern, which was deeply steeped in everything Green Lantern from the first 2 pages, right? This is more like all that Krakoa stuff happened, but came crashing down, we're not going to talk about that much. It's not like there's going to be any flashbacks to freaking Krakoa, right? Whether you like, keep saying this, whether you love Krakoa or hated Krakoa, Krakoa is over, baby, right? But if you were in New York when those towers came down, it left a mark.
Yeah.
I don't have to keep reminding you what that actual day was. I just have to let you know it happened and that there's a mark. So if you've never read an X-Men comic before, you could read this book.
True.
Right? If you looked at Krakoa, right, even when Hickman was doing it, which was to me the best period, if you looked at that and went, not for me, this is too weird, too much of a spin, I'm out, and then you came back now, no problem.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. At least in this book, there's references to Krakoa just in that it happened.
It happened and it affected us.
Right. Because different characters are in different places for reasons. Right. And so that's part of an explanation. But yeah, even because like this X-Force team, you mentioned Rachel and Betsy. I didn't read that side of the Krakoa stuff.
So how would you know? Right.
So for me, they show up, they're together, and that's really all I know about them. And that's all I need to know, at the very least, for this issue.
Right. They're a couple. That's all you need to know. Somebody asked a question. The thing with Sage, the inner monologue choice, is a writing thing, at least for me. Her power is not visible, right? There are a lot of characters who have powers that are no way physically demonstrated. Like technically Spider-Man just standing there, if he didn't have web shooters, what are his powers? Right? Yeah. So with Sage, her power is essentially thinking really fast, right? And really big. So how do I evidence that? And I felt the only way to get at that was to be inside her head so that the audience would be like, by the way, at some point I will post the first draft of the script for Sage's inner monologue on my Patreon, and you'll be like, oh, thank God the editors told him not to do this. Because I had her because I was showing how much she multitasks, right? So while she's doing this, she's literally also doing literally 500 other things simultaneously in her head, right? And I wanted to get that across to the audience. This is what we were talking about with editors before. Mark and I went back and forth about this, but Mark turned out to be right. So I scratched all of that original crazy dialogue, inner dialogue, and what you have in the book is what's there. But there was no way to show Sage's powers yet. And so these first 5 issues are going to be narrated by her. Okay. And you're going to be in her head, and you should pay attention to what she says. You should pay very close attention to what Sage says in her own head. There's a difference between that and what she's saying to other people. So, and there was a way I could show how her powers work. Basically, it's just the only way I could demonstrate how me anyway. Another writer may figure out a better solution, but that was my solution.
So you mentioned the first 5 issues, right? I'm unclear as to how the X books are working. I know there's 3 that are considered the marquee titles, right? I know there's a million more titles.
Yes.
So far. Some build minis, some not quite build. They're just there.
You don't even know.
So how far does your plan go?
I think I'm going to be on the book at least a year. At least. What I pitched to them is a multi-part storyline. Issues 5 and 6 are sort of a pivot place. So you're going to go into whatever that next phase is of what this story is. You're going to see a whole bunch of stuff in the next 4 issues. A whole bunch of stuff. The thing is, I think the Krakoa era, if it did anything wrong, and I'm not saying it did, is that it conditioned the audience to think, oh, there's a master plan, and they're all going to go towards this single goal together. Right. So somehow what's going on in exceptional and what's going on in uncanny and what's going on in adjectiveless are going to govern what all the other books are doing at all times. That's not how it's working. Right. My book's my book. I know what's going on in the other books and when and if it's cool, they will sometimes coincide. Sometimes. The Storm character is a public figure, for instance, right? So if she's making a public speech or she's appearing at the UN and something, and timelines work out where my guys happen to be in New York at that time, yeah, Storm might be a background character in that book. She exists in the same space and universe that they do. But if Storm's fighting the Shadow King or something in her book, ain't nothing to do with me. Like that's your biz. So it's kind of like that, and that's for the From the Ashes period, right? Okay. A heading that is for a particular period of time, right? Right after Krakoa, From the Ashes. I don't know what the next phase will be called, but there will be one, and it won't be From the Ashes cannot live forever. It has to turn into something else. So yeah, so the books are we all know what each other's doing. We are in constant contact about what all each other's doing, but it is not the same like everything is a chapter in the one big story. It's not working like that. So from Tom's point of view, and I agree with this, by the way, the people have been yelling at Tom about this, but we should look at it less like, oh, Marvel's flooding the market with all these X books because they know these suckers are going to buy all the X books. I don't think that Tom expects you to buy all the X books. I think what he wants is for us to put out enough different kinds of X books that everybody can find something that satisfies them, right? You see from the tone of X-Force, it is nothing like the 3 marquee X books. Mm-hmm. It just isn't. And it's not doing it to be different. It just is different, right? Like they could have said no.
Yeah. Yeah. And he did say that. He said that in his in a Substack letter.
I don't read that.
Got you. But he said that the goal was for there to basically be an X-Men book for everyone. Because if there was an early criticism of From the Ashes before we saw a single book, it was just, why are there so many?
Well,
because
that's why. And yeah. I'm glad he said that, because that's basically what he told us. Mm-hmm. Like I was paraphrasing, but he was like, go for what you know, baby. Right. Me and Mark, and it's not like it just isn't like that. Hickman had a very specific plan in mind. Mm-hmm. Right. And he came in and he was telling you a story, one gigantic freaking story. Right. Now, whatever happened, and he went away. So at that point, it diverged from whatever it was he was planning to do. Okay. But there was this thing with the audience where, well, damn, I got to read everything. I got to check out this permutation of this. Is that going to affect Wolverine? And what's going on with this? How many Mr. Sinisters are there? And it all had to add up to something. And how many of these Hellfire Galas are we going to have to go to, and all this other stuff? And I was like, yeah, it can be a lot, because you feel like if you don't buy something, you're going to miss something. Mm-hmm. Right? There's something cool is going to happen. You have to run and scramble to go get it, or something's not going to make sense. I don't know if that was fair, but the vibe was that. So when they said they're going to drop all these in the Ashes era, all these books, there's like, oh, Jesus Christ, here we go again with this shit. Right. And I'm like, but it's the opposite. You don't need to read all of these books. I am giving you permission not to read all of these books, because they just do not hook together that way. Okay. If I talk to Dr. Ewing and we want to crossover Exceptional with X-Force, then we would work out that crossover, and our editors would talk and go, okay, cool. Mm-hmm. Right. But if we don't, we don't. Right. And my team in particular isn't talking to any of the others at all on purpose. Mm-hmm. Like, they're keeping their stuff close to the vest. So nobody even knows X-Force exists right now. Like, they don't think that people in X-Force are dead or anything, but they don't know that they're teamed up doing stuff. Right. So, yes, I give you all permission to buy only the X-Men related books that you actually like. You will not miss anything.
Nice.
Okay. I didn't want to watch X-Men 97 because I hate nostalgia. But my friend made me watch it. And it was actually good. And I love the whole Forge and Storm relationship. I've always been salty about Forge and Storm not being together and her going off with the Black Panther. I'm one of those dudes who does not want them to be together. I want Forge and Aurora to be together. But that didn't happen. It broke my heart. I'm very sorry about it. But yeah, I like the way they portrayed him. It's an interesting spin. It was faithful to the source material. I mean, those are the books that made X-Men that period of time, was what made X-Men X-Men. So, how can you not love it?
Chill
No, sorry, baby. Sorry. That's why you guys don't want me writing the Black Panther. You don't want me writing the Black Panther, dude.
Chill just made a was it 10th anniversary celebration of Storm and T'Challa's wedding as if there were eyewitness accounts.
Nope. Miss me with all of that. No.
Man.
No. The worst decision ever made was mixing the Black Panther office with the X-Men office. It was worse for both of those franchises for them to be put together in any way except as friends. Sorry, or ex-lovers once upon a time. Like, y'all crazy. No.
I guess to be fair, if the wedding never happens, then that other moment that we all hate from the X of Swords also never happened.
Dude, oh my God, I hated that so much. Oh my God, I was going to come to okay, listen, I'm yelling, but my boys are going to Wakanda next issue. So we might have to revisit after that. But my feeling about that was they used Storm. Okay, first of all, X office is more powerful than the Black Panther office. Height of Black Panther is never as big a deal as X-Men. Sorry about it. It's just not. Sales. Right. So what the X office wants to do is what's going to happen. Okay, sorry, you can be mad about it, but that's what it is. So they use Storm to punk out T'Challa all the time. And I'm like, are they a marriage of equals, or are you just flexing on my boy all the time? Mm-hmm. And from my point of view, it was like 80% flex and 20% cool. Dwayne McDuffie made them a great couple when they were in the Fantastic Four. They were great as a unit in the Fantastic Four. I'm like that. Do that, I'm with you. But nobody else did it that way. Okay. So I think both of them are done a disservice. She needs her own rogues gallery. She needs her own love interest, right? She needs her own stuff going on. And he needs the same thing. Mm-hmm. And then they can have been together in the past. They can have deep feelings for each other. They kind of already set that up now. So as long as you just leave it alone, okay. But the idea that the Wakandans, the poor, foolish Wakandans, worship Storm as one of their deities, no. I will bury you and dig you up and bury you again over that. No. So there are ways to do all this stuff where everybody wins, and that was not the way. So that episode where they snuck in and she just steals that thing, I'm like, these are Wakandans. These are literally, you'll see Sage in the next issue says what I think about Wakandan culture in one of the things. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you, their entire culture is built on stealth.
Yeah.
Their whole culture for 10,000 years is built on nothing but stealth. And you snuck in and stole their most prized possession. Sorry.
Yeah.
No. Right? They're ruled by a king who pretended to be a superhero and went on adventures with the Avengers for years. And nobody figured it out. But your ass was married to him, and they don't have a fix for you specifically in Wakanda? What was going to happen if the queen lost her shit one day? They were just going to have to lump it? No, they got rooms and devices and stuff to handle you, Storm.
Right.
There's just no way they don't. They're the Wakandans.
Facts.
Right? And same thing, if Wakandans broke into the Westchester mansion, they better bring a lunch.
Right.
Because you don't break into that joint. I think the way Storm is now, that they're definitely giving her a push. She deserves a push. She's always deserved a push. She's the only really marquee Black female character Marvel's ever really developed all the way out. They missed the boat with Misty Knight too many times for me to count. And that's kind of it, y'all. Who else you got? So make that book a hit. Make that book a hit. Because who else you got?
Yeah. Chillmonger would agree with you there.
Yeah. So
Scully says Storm technically met Black Panther before she was worshipped as a goddess.
That's correct. He knows she's just a mutant with storm powers.
Yeah. That's kind of my issue with Storm in general. Well, an issue I have with like sort of Storm's origin, right? Like if there are mutants everywhere else in the world, like do people just not know mutants? Like are the Africans not smart enough to recognize her as a mutant?
My dear, you know what this is. They first of all, they think of Africa as a country. Africa is a gigantic country.
Right.
But two, ain't nobody thinking about Africa in these offices. They're just not. Like most mutants on the planet would be either Asian or African descent by definition.
Right.
Majority. Why?
Yeah.
Vast majority of humans are of Asian or African descent. So therefore, right? But that's not how it works. It's the opposite of, or it's part of the reason why almost everything happens in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Is that really where everything would happen? Like, first of all, after both Galactus and Inferno, who's living in New York anymore? Like, who stays in Manhattan after that? I'm moving out after Galactus, personally. But yeah, I think there is something to be said for think globally in a global, we're going to talk about the 616 universe, then think globally. And some writers do, but most do not. And then the way they think globally is filtered, shall we say, depending on the era and where they're from, what their backgrounds are. They don't think about what they don't have to think about. As a quote unquote minority or marginalized person, part of our survival mechanism is I have to think about things that have nothing to do with me just for survival. So frankly, it'd be a hell of a lot easier for a competent Black writer to write white people than the same competent white writer to write Black people, because they don't generally, as a rule, now many can do it, but on the whole, they don't penetrate into our subculture deeply enough to authentically write it. Whereas we spend most of our time in the overculture just having to live. So we have to be able to do it. Right? Yeah. It's not a superpower. It's just the way our society has worked out. So, so in terms of Africa, yeah, Africa should be teeming with freaking mutants.
Right.
It should be teeming. There should be constant African superheroes showing up. When you land in Nairobi, you should be met by the Nairobi equivalent of the Avengers. When you are fighting off our space armada, you shouldn't have to be, where are the superheroes? We better call Wakanda. Why? The Nairobians are already up there doing their stuff. Like, you have to think of it. So they just don't. They just don't.
It's true. It's true. So what do you think about Storm being an Avenger at this point?
I don't have a problem with it. That was the question, I guess.
Yeah.
Her being an Avenger is fine. I want her to have a high profile. I want her to have her own book if she can hold it down. Make it a hit. Make the Avengers number spike so that people go, oh, damn, look what happened when we put Storm in the book. That's the way it works.
Yeah.
Right? Like on a certain basic level, they don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They care about that money. So if you want Storm to have her own book, you better buy the hell out of the book she's got.
True. Yeah. Storm's getting her own book and she's on the Avengers.
Right.
I think the Storm miniseries is kind of a prequel to her time in the Avengers.
No, it's I don't know. Is it a miniseries? I thought it was ongoing, but
is it?
Okay. I don't know. If it's a mini, it's a mini. But the thing that they're doing with Storm is after the fall, right? She was running a planet.
Mm.
So it's difficult to put her back down at street level, and they're letting her flex and see what she does. She's a publicly known character. She doesn't have a secret identity. She has many times showed up like, I am Storm. Y'all better recognize. So, right. So she's not going out being that, but everyone knows who she is. So they're making the most of that phenomenon in that 616 universe. And I hope it works. I've always hoped every Storm miniseries or series works. I want them to win. Like, because if she wins, then maybe we get that Misty Knight book. Maybe we upgrade Frenzy and she gets her own book. Like, it isn't just about Black women. I'm saying you got to hit these people in the face with a 2x4, and that 2x4 is made of money.
Yeah.
Buy a book.
Yeah. Speaking of, X-Force issue number 1 is out tomorrow. we talk long enough, it'll be out today. But,
it's out today in Europe.
Right. So go to your local comic shop, go on Comixology if you still do that type of thing. Grab issue 1. I am salty that I can't see the extra pages yet. I guess that was a smart idea by Marvel to make it so that QR code doesn't go live until street date.
Yeah. I mean, here's what I would say about that. Again, I did not know, you saw that thing I wrote on my Patreon. I did not know all of this comic book criticism stuff existed until basically people started coming at me about Green Lantern. And I was like, what is all this? But there's people that are salty as hell about the QR code. They're like, oh, Marvel's going to do this across that. And I'm like, it's just for one issue, man. Relax. Right? It's not happening in issue 2. It's not happening. It's like, there's not the new ongoing thing. Like, just like put your hair out, put some water on your burning hair, you know, pull your drawers back up.
And it doesn't change the experience with the book. Like at least the ones that I saw.
No, it's one
literally
page.
Just an extra page.
It's literally an extra, right? Knowing the X-Force page, one thing happens that you're like, oh, neat. And that's it. If you never see that page, so what?
Yeah.
Right? Like, so what? So, Betsy's Butterfly. Yeah. Listen, I kept quiet about that because the way Marcus draws the butterfly is different than the way maybe traditionally it's been drawn. And I did not know what people were going to think when they saw it. Right? Because the more traditional version of it stayed with Quanon for some unknown reason. But I like the way first of all, I like the way Marcus just draws, but his interpretation of how both Rachel and Betsy's powers look, chef's kiss. I am here for that man. He needs to be on this book till he wants to go. Because I like his work.
I don't think there's a way to overstate how good the art is on this book.
He came to play.
Yeah.
He definitely came to play. When I was seeing, you know how good this dude is? When I was looking at the roughs, I was like, oh, we might have something here. like, holy crap with this guy. Marcus is great. He is great. And I'm asking him to draw a lot of crazy stuff. You don't even know. But it's inspiring. He's ridiculously talented. Yeah, Marcus is redonkulous.
Yeah.
Like, the only way I'll be happy if he ever left the book is if he got upgraded to some amazing, like, he's now the regular artist on Batman or something. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I'll be like, yes, go with God. But if it ain't that, you better stay on X-Force, man.
Right.
He is awesome.
So Tim's got a question because we did just get announced that Shadow Cabinet's coming. What of Blood Syndicate?
I have a problem of being too frank when I'm allowed to be. There are NDAs in place on a lot of my work that I cannot tell anyone anything about. The very real truth is that I have not been in contact with Milestone since the end of Blood Syndicate season 1. Tonight was the first that I'd heard that there was a Shadow Cabinet book coming out, which broke my heart because I wanted me to be writing the Shadow Cabinet book. My short answer is yes, there may well be a Blood Syndicate season 2, but I may not be the person who's in any way connected with it.
Yeah, it's been billed as, I think Joe called it the Avengers Endgame of the Milestone universe. So it sounds as though everybody.
Well, I set up a bunch of crap for them, so they got a lot to play with.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I just hope it's not the end game, right? Like, because in my opinion, we haven't earned an end game story-wise. Like, there's nothing to pay off that I can.
No, I agree. There's no emotional thing. There's nothing that will gender that moment where the Wakandans come through the portal.
Right.
There's nothing there. I cannot watch Endgame. Here's how good and how built up, how earned Endgame was. I cannot watch a fight sequence, which is all the last third of the movie really is, just a long ass fight sequence, without tearing up, because I know what every battle, every punch, every save means.
Yeah.
right? It all has something underneath it. And this version of Milestone has not been around long enough for anything like that to mean anything.
Yeah.
Just hasn't. So, and if you doubt me, look at The Wrath of Khan and look at Into Darkness. Same movie.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I thought it's interesting that Shadow Cabinet's coming. It's a 4-issue limited series.
Okay.
And that's all we know of, Milestone 2.0 news at this point.
Let me put it like this. I'm unhappy that I'm not writing the Shadow Cabinet. If they call me tomorrow and say, well, what's up with season 2 of Blood Syndicate? I'm writing Blood Syndicate. I will always write Blood. If given the opportunity, I will always write Blood Syndicate. But
we shall see. DC's all in.
God bless them. God bless them.
But yeah. So X-Force #1 out this week. Go to your local comic shop, grab it. Go online, grab it. It's worth it. It's worth all. What did I pay for this? $5. It's
fun.
worth it.
It's fun. It's just let's all have some fun.
It's high action. I didn't even talk about Deadpool. Deadpool is very fun in this book, and
How did I do?
I hate Deadpool. Like
Me too.
Deadpool gets old really quickly for me. Like it works when it works, but when it doesn't, it's an annoyance. And it works well in this book, especially things that I won't spoil. But I very much enjoyed Deadpool in this book, and I think it was fun just giving you a chance or seeing you funny, right? Like your commentary can be funny, but generally, if anything, you come off as smart, right? You don't necessarily write humor often, and so it was fun just to see you kind of have fun with this really fun character.
Yeah, all these characters are snarky as hell. The driest character is actually weirdly Forge in this run, but because he's the straight man, basically everyone else is just filled with mockery at all times. So, and they bicker with each other, and this was really a place where I don't consciously try to do a book that's different than another book, but I do consciously go, if you look at all of the books I've written for both of these companies, there are no two that are alike.
Yeah,
definitely do that on purpose. And some of the subject matter is so serious so much of the time. Like Blood Syndicate has a lot of weight on it, so it's a different kind of a story. There's not there would have been more jokes going forward now that we've established the characters. But in this case, I didn't have to establish them. I just had to play with them. So I'm glad you appreciate that. I'm always worried about that. The X-Line wide crossovers. Listen, like I said, this ain't Krakoa. So there will definitely be crossovers, but all of the crossovers will be considerably smaller than what you're used to for the last 5 years. Like there will definitely be crossovers, but I don't know that even every book will be involved in every crossover. Like that's what I'm saying about it's different, right? Like we all know what's going on, but like we were talking about maybe a couple of different potential things. And I was like, well, here's where the guys in X-Force are going to be at that time. Right? So yeah, there will be some crossovers, but again, I feel weird because it would sound like I'm criticizing the previous era. I'm not. But they condition the audience to think of this stuff in a particular way. If you just started reading X-Men in the last 5 years and you have no reference point except the last 5 years, yes, that's correct. There will be crossovers. But I like to think that these crossovers are not for their own sake, and they are not going to be, they're going to be more personal, I guess. They're going to be, so far anyway, the discussions of that. And like I said, not every book's going to be featured in the crossover because of timing more than anything else, or what character can we use for this? How can we fit this character in? So, and sometimes the answer is no, it's just not going to work this time. It's not going to fit. So there will be some stuff. One big thing that we've been talking about, but big is relative. Like I said, like if you think about Krakoa, it was largely just a giant crossover. Like
Yes.
For 5 years, it was just a crossover all the time.
Yes. Yes.
So this is just not that. And the fun part is because it's not that interwoven all the time, we can organically, like one thing I used to hate about crossovers, especially when DC was going crazy with Bat crossovers, I was like, is this really a crossover, or did you just have Batman run through on 2 pages of this book so that I would think it was a crossover and buy it, right? In this case, at least in the first crossover that our guys are going to be involved with, it's organic. Like, if you were to only, like years from now when it's just a trade paperback, if you don't read the crossover part, like rephrase that, if you don't know about the crossover, right, and you just read just the X-Force stuff, great, you lose nothing. Okay, the crossover should enhance your experience, not take away from it. Right. So we're trying really hard to make it. Wow! Shots fired at Drake for no reason. Holy crap! Oh my God, Chillmonger, that is not your name. You have none. You have no chill. What is wrong? It used to be Zero Chillmonger.
Chill, aren't you from Toronto?
Yeah, I know. Goddamn.
That's funny. Now, Dwayne McDuffie had a column, and I don't know where I'll find it. I found it in some internet archive, but he was talking about just kind of the nuances of shared universes and why they don't work generally. And he talks about how, like, if something happened over here and this guy is black.
I'm sorry, Chillmonger needs to shut up.
But he makes the case in this column that like we should just kind of abolish shared universes, and if somebody's going to cross over, cool, but they should kind of just end with that. Where do you stand on like continuity and whatnot?
I there's several kinds of fans, okay, and there are kinds of fans that they are so married to it. I call them stamp collectors. What they want is everything in order, and everything, like every deviation has to be in its proper, like this happened in 1968 and then the next one is 1969, like that, right? And if you got Mary Jane's haircut wrong because it was a flashback back when she was dating Peter and her hair looked like this, but the artist didn't draw it that way, and that gets your nose out of joint, I'm not here for you. Okay, that's too crazy to me. But continuity should be used to make the experience better. And if it doesn't, ignore it. Right? I'm a person who believes the story wins. Best story wins. But there are kinds of continuity that you can't get away from. Bruce Wayne is Batman. His parents were killed in that alley. That's why he became Batman. So you can't change that. That's continuity. But there's a lot in there. Like, what order did he get the Robins in? What order did, was Dick the first Robin? Or he's just the first one y'all know about? See, I'm messing with continuity by saying, no, he was Robin number 2. There was actually another Robin that we never heard of before. Now, you get mad when I pitch it, but if I tell the story well, you love it. How do we know? Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Bucky died. Bucky been dead my whole life. Right? Bucky was dead before I was born. Right? But we got the Winter Soldier. So there's that. Continuity should be used to serve the story. That's it. In terms of shared universe, wow, that's such a deep question, because DC Comics ironically does not work as a shared universe. It is much harder to hold that universe together than it is to hold the Marvel universe together. The reason is that almost all of the main DC characters were their own comic book back in the day. The Flash was the only superhero on his planet. Superman, Batman, etc. right? And then they got bought into one big company, and people were like, well, let's put them all together, you know? And I'm like, and then a guy I actually know created the idea that Metropolis and Gotham are right next to each other. I'm like, that can't work. If Superman lives next to Gotham, Gotham no longer is Gotham, because he would just fly over there and handle stuff. Like most of Batman's villains, Superman can handle it on his way to a fight.
Right.
Right. So it doesn't really work that way. It works because we let it. Marvel was designed to be that kind of universe right from the get. So their problem was they set everything in New York, and it makes no sense that that Spider-Man and Daredevil aren't constantly smacking into each other, right? It makes no sense. Defenders and the Avengers both, and the Fantastic Four and the X-Men all live within proximity of Manhattan, and yet somehow nobody else showed up for Galactus. Nobody else showed up for, the Goblin Queen doing whatever the hell she was doing. Nobody showed up for Spider Island except Spider people. Like, no, right? So I think it gets out of hand when people are too tight with it. When it stops being fun. As soon as it stops being fun, you shouldn't use it. You should ignore it. And if enough people get their nose out of joint, well, didn't you kill that character? Yeah, we did, but people really like her now. So she's back, but she died in that issue. And you know what? In the old days, what your job would be as a fan would be explain it. And then I, Stan Lee, will give you a no prize. Say, you explained it well. We will now use that explanation in continuity. No prize for you, right?
Yeah.
And that was how we were all engaged with each other, and why it was a we thing instead of a us and them thing. But right now, the idea is, what can I find to pick apart? What can I find to criticize? Right? And I'll be like, well, there's always going to be something. We're people. People don't make perfect things. Definitely, there will be people who will be mad at what I do with X-Force, and they'll be right. I will definitely have made some mistake. I will have mischaracterized something, or somebody's power set is not exactly the way you remember it, or whatever it is. And you know what? I won't argue. You will be right. But is it fun? If you didn't say any of that, if you weren't thinking about any of that, would you have had fun?
Right.
Right? When in TV, we have this thing of like, don't get in the way of the fun train. Right? Don't logic your way off the fun train. Right? That's every TV show has this phrase. Right? And the reason is, someone will pitch something in a writer's room and say, well, what if they did this? Or what if we did a whole episode and it was just this? Right? And then you start, at first you don't take it seriously. You go, yeah, and we joke around, and we spend way too much time joking around about that dumb idea. But at some point, while we're joking around, someone will raise their hand and go, yeah, wait a minute. What'd you just say? About some part of it. And they'll go, oh, yeah, that's dope. And all of a sudden, that stupid, jokey idea that kicked us off a half hour ago, now it's an episode. Why? Because we didn't get off the fun train. And then someone in the other room will be like, wait a minute, what are y'all doing? Musical episode. How's that supposed to work? Like, well, we're figuring that out now, boss. Just give us a second, right? And if you can figure it out, then it's a fun episode that everybody remembers. But if you stayed on the logic track, why would this episode have music in it? We don't do that kind of show, right? That's not the point. The fun train is the point. So as long as it's within the, some lines. So I don't know. I just what I like about your channel, what I've said this in print and to you, you are what I call doing it right, because everything you do makes me want to read comics. It doesn't make me mad at a particular, you don't like everything. I've seen you not like certain things, and you don't go off on it. You say, didn't really do it for me, or I'm not really vibing with this, whatever. But this thing was great, and there's a billion ways to be that person, right? There's a lot of other, I've listed them. Literally, I've listed them. There are many people who do it right from my point of view, and no two of you do it the same way. But the one thing you all do is you make me want to read fucking comic books. You make me wish to like them, right? And that's a harder job than the other guys who, it's the easiest thing in the world is throw a rock at a glass window, right? You don't need any skills. You don't even need to aim, really. Right. Just pick up a rock, throw, you're probably going to break that window. Easy to break, right? But how much energy and time and skill did it take to make that window? It's hard work.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a lot more channels that don't do it the right way from my point of view. Right? Because it's an easier lift. It's an easier lift. So thank you for your time. Thank you for letting me come on and talk shit about ridiculous things. But even if I never were to do it again and never write comics again, thank you for being this kind of channel. Like, I need 9,000 more of you. I need 9,000 more BJ Kicks channels. Like, go form an empire. Do it. Yeah.
No, I appreciate it, man. That's high praise, and it's why I do it, right? Literally, I started this channel because I got into comics. I didn't get into comics until 2019 with Krakoa. Yeah, I started reading comics with House of X, Powers of 10, and I was researching. Like, I would go to YouTube just to make sure that whatever I was reading or whatever I understood about a comic was actually what was happening. Mm-hmm. And so I'm watching reviews and stuff, and it starts out as reviews and somehow ends with "I hate black people" like every time, and it's like, Lord. So that's why I was like, all right, I gotta start something,
Thank you. That's all it takes, right? And also, you clearly like these things. I'm amazed you just started 5 years ago. That's crazy to me. Like, generally, adulthood is not when people pick these things up.
That's true. Well, I have my daughter to thank. I was taking her on an outing because she fancies herself an artist. They had artists at this comic shop for free comic book day, and I came out with quite the expensive habit.
Let me tell you, that's the story everybody wants to hear, right? You and your daughter. Like, that's what everybody should be wanting. That's what everybody should be shooting for. I only do this because I like it. It doesn't make me any money, really. Like, compared to my day job, it don't make me any money. It's a lot of work. It's the same kind of fighting I do when I'm writing a TV show, same kind of obstacles, same kind of, I wish we could do this. Why can't we do it? The fucking censors won't let me. All of that shit, except for a dime instead of for $10,000.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And you still have the same fight, and you still have the same, like, oh, God damn, we didn't get to do that moment, all of that stuff. Because I freaking love these things. They enhanced my childhood. They enhanced my young adulthood. And to be able to participate in them at all, at this level, certainly, is like a gift. And the idea that people can't simply enjoy what they enjoy and not enjoy and therefore ignore what they don't enjoy boggles my mind. I like, it's such a fragile thing, and the sales are diminishing across the board. And it seems like people want to dance on its fucking grave.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not here for that. I'm here for it to be fun. So,
yeah. Well, look, man, I appreciate you taking the time, watching the channel, supporting the channel, sharing, but really sharing your time, sharing your insights with the audience. And just thank you.
It's a feedback loop. Like, you do good commentary, your guests are great, your audience is cool, right? I read the comments. I come and read the comments. I only comment when I see something that makes me want to be snarky, basically. Mm-hmm. But like I said, I could take 9,000 more of you and have a really good day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So thank you, and thank you to the chat. Like, thank you to everybody who participates. Watch the channel, like and subscribe, and buy that Storm book, and buy the hell out of X-Force, and buy the hell out of all of them. By the way, Exceptional X-Men, Eve Ewing's book. Mm-hmm. Quite a different lift. Check it out.
Yeah, I'm definitely checking that one out, and I think that's
no promises.
That I think
somebody's gonna die.
Yeah. You stick around Geoff Thorne long enough, that is going to happen.
Listen, I'm joking, but please don't. I'm telling you a story. All I'm going to ask you to do is, please, no matter what happens that bothers you, if you get mad at me, feel it, but go through it, because I'm telling you a story, and nobody's getting killed just to get clicks. Whoever does bite it it's not just so we could say somebody dies in issue 5.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to tell you an interesting story. Please stick around. Post whoever does or doesn't die.
Yeah. Yeah. I think my X-Men lineup is gonna be X-Men, Uncanny, Exceptional, X-Force, Storm. I think that's it for me.
Yeah.
Until one of those makes me, or
yeah, unless they make you.
Yeah.
Don't.
Yeah.
Look, I love them all. I get to read them for free. We see each other's work before it comes out. All of that, and some of them are like, wow, this is a dope ass comic book. This one's just a mini. This one looks like it's trying to be ongoing. Whatever, right? Yeah. But there's no way you could be expected to buy them all. Yeah. Don't put that on yourself. It's stupid to think that that's what the company even wants you to do. Who has enough money to buy all those X-books? Nobody.
Right.
So obviously what they want you to do is choose the ones you like. So do that.
Yeah. So the rest of those will be reviewed in trade. And with that, I got to go because I actually have to read some trades.
Yeah.
And, I got to review those or David Gabriel is going to be on my tail. Okay. So, but thank you again, Geoff, for your time.
Anytime you want me back, obviously I'm back. I'm going to be on the book for a minimum of a year. So awesome. You have plenty of time to get me on whenever you want.
Awesome.
And if I have something kicking, I will let you know and we can work something out on that score too.
Yeah, please do.
Cool.
Please do.
Oh, I need to talk to you about Kickstarter. So we need to figure out a time to talk about that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm down. You got all my info.
Cool.
All right. Well, thank you guys. Thank you guys in the audience, in the live chat. And for those of you who are listening on the replay, I appreciate you all. You guys can find us at comicsaredope.com. Listen to the podcast. There's some really fun conversations, including this one. I just got to meet Christopher Priest last week after our 3-hour conversation. So that was fun. We added another 2 hours at GalaxyCon that you won't hear, but listen to the first 3. I promise it's a great conversation. Nick Draper-Ivey, Greg Pak, like the list is getting bigger. It's a fun list. Go listen to that. And I'll see y'all in another one soon. Until then, stay safe, stay awesome, and read something dope today.
Peace.
Peace.